welcome to the Razor's Edge. This is Hutch, and with today's interview I'll be speaking with Michael Czerwoniuk, guitarist and vocalist with Manchester black metal outfit Wode, who've just released their stunning third album, Burn in Many Mirrors. So how's it going? You all right?
Yeah, fine. Yeah, just
doing
it. Lots of trips to the post office and stuff like that with the Wode.
Yeah. So is that something that do you do a lot of all your own kind of merchandise and stuff?
Yeah, we do our own like t-shirts and stuff like that, and then we got like an allocation of records and CDs from the label. So we do that as part of the deal. So, but thankfully most of them have gone now. Yeah,
good.
So it's done all right.
Good. Yeah, I'm hoping that my t-shirts and my vinyl will turn up very soon, so that'll be brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Let's get straight to the new album, because I've got to say that having listened to it for a couple of weeks before the release date and having continued to live with it, it's a natural progression from Servants, but it's also a brilliant album. So congratulations on the actual album itself. Obviously, it's been 4 years since Servants of the Cosmos was released, but when did you actually start the writing process on it?
Well, after Servants came out, we had a few tours. We went to Europe a couple of times, and then some other bits and tours. So we took a little bit of time just to do that, and then we started writing the first song, what became the first song for this record, sort of around sort of spring to 2018.
Yeah.
And then just continued really. We all have other projects on the go at the same time, and and doing gigs and tours kind of will always delay things slightly. But the overall writing was probably, I guess, a 2 year long process.
Yeah.
We went into the studio in March 2020. So a couple of years it took to write it all.
Sure. And inevitably, obviously, you timed it so well because you went into the studio just as everything shut. So inevitably, obviously, like every interview, we wade through the COVID questions and stuff. But the impact on you guys when you were actually recording it and getting it done, how did that actually impact on you in terms of being able to record it in the usual way? What were the challenges for you?
Yeah, so when we went in, we did a week sort of just tracking drums, and this was like right before the lockdown here. So we could, something was on the horizon. It felt it was definitely very kind of a lot of dread about at the time, but we kind of recorded the first bit of it pretty normally, and then we found out like the week after we couldn't go back. The studio which was closed for the next few months. So all we could do really was just listen to what we had.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully we got all the drums and most of the bass down, and then some scratch guitar. So we could like just listen to it in a way that you can't really always hear in a practice room. There's a lot going on. So it benefited us to have this kind of a bit of clarity and being able to hear things, and then it allowed us to really go over the additional parts and like come up with some new parts.
Yeah.
Work on some of the synth stuff that was happening. I worked on a lot of the kind of how I'd want to deliver the vocals once I could hear everything a bit better. So once we had like 2-3 months just doing that, and then we were able to get back into the studio sort of, I think it was like July, something like that.
Yeah.
When things opened up a little bit. And at first it was like 2 at a time. It wasn't too bad really.
Yeah.
We were at the stage of them where it was very much, the playing as a band was over. It was just each person's individual tracking guitars and vocals and whatnot.
Yeah.
So yeah, it could have been a lot worse, I guess, if it had, you know, if we'd not got that initial bit done straight away.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to interview Carl Willits the other week from Memoriam, and he was saying it was the first time he'd ever demoed vocals. Because he'd done demos and then had to come out of the studio and then go back in, so he had time to actually think about it, whereas normally he goes in and just lays it down and that's it. So I suppose for you, having that bit of a pause at least gave you time to listen to what you had and refine certain bits, yeah?
Yeah, well, I hadn't done vocals at that point, but yeah, it was definitely just in my own head, just to sort of even like go through some of the patterns and what I wanted to have, you know, how I wanted to express certain things, vocalizations and stuff, and then I even changed some of the lyrics in that time. So it was, you know, I kind of feel a bit weird saying, like, obviously it's impacted a lot of bands quite badly, but it wasn't really a disaster for us. The lockdown, It was fine.
Sure. And was it always planned to be released around this time, or have you pushed it back because of the pandemic?
Yeah, that was the one thing really. Yeah, with the label, the schedule had been, they wanted it to come out sort of last October.
Right.
When we went into the studio, and that was like the sort of rough timeline that we'd set out. Obviously, you know, we added a lot of time onto that, just being unable to get in there. But it's all worked out really, because I guess we're kind of closer now to when we were able to play again. So
yeah,
I think if we'd released it last year, I think we'd have just been, you know, just felt like we were, you know, here you go. But there's not a lot we can do with it, but there you go.
Yeah.
So,
you'd be like, sorry, you'd be like one of those hundreds of bands that are thinking, should we write another album, and then two albums and stuff? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult to think of the timing, because, like, I guess once this is over, there's going to be a lot of albums coming out, so maybe things will get lost in the shuffle a little bit, or you could just release it when there's less stuff coming out. But yeah. I mean, we never felt like we wanted to sit on something. As soon as we're done, we're like, okay, release it and get on to the next thing.
Yeah. So this was Dan's first album with Wode, but you've obviously played with him in Aggressive Perfecta for a number of years, haven't you? So were there any challenges with him coming in for his first recording with you, or were you all very comfortable? Because he's been with you for 3 or 4 years anyway, hasn't he?
Yeah, me and Tim and Dan have been doing Aggressive Perfecta for a few years. So no, it was our other guitarist, Carl, had to leave the band. It was quite short notice before a tour, because he was having a kid, and like it just wasn't going to happen. With Dan, we kind of just, Dan was the only choice really, because we know he can play the stuff. He's dedicated, and he's a good person to have around.
Yeah.
So yeah, he stepped into that tour, and then ever since then, really, he's been able to. You know, he doesn't contribute as much writing to Wode as he does with Aggressive Perfecta. That's more his thing.
Yeah.
And likewise me, I kind of take a back seat in that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was no problem at all with Dan. Like he gets it. He gets what we're about. He fitted in perfectly. And he comes up with stuff that we probably wouldn't as well. Some of the, like, you know, that end of things, more like heavy metal stuff, which is shown up on this album a little bit. Some of that's him.
Yeah.
And also, like, yeah, just as a live performer, he kind of has a good energy, kind of pushes us a bit more.
Yeah, sure. So you've got, I was going to say your standard 6 tracks, but that kind of is like your format that you deliver on your albums. I don't think it's the standard, it's just the way it forms. And one of the tracks that for me stands out, certainly on repeated listens, is the album closer, Streams of Rapture. obviously the longest piece on the album, but also slightly different with the synth intro and the way it kind of progresses, slightly different to maybe the intensity of the other tracks, although it's no less fierce. Was it always the plan to have that one as the kind of finisher for the album because that's where it sits naturally? Is that how you arranged it?
Yeah, I think we kind of do write stuff with like an album order, set list, track list in mind, and we kind of it was Tim's idea that he wanted to have this kind of trilogy thing at the end, and it just I think that would make much sense. Like early on in the record, it's kind of definitely like a sort of climax and but like the trilogy of, it fed into some of the other stuff on the record, like the triptych, cover, and it was we wanted this one to be a bit longer than the last one because I think that it was only half an hour the last album. It kind of maybe some people felt a bit shortchanged by that, but it came to we had like half hour's worth of music, and then we were like, let's write. We didn't feel like we had a song that felt like could be the final one, and then we kind of worked really hard on that and got this. Probably my favorite one on the album.
Yeah. Of course, I suppose the risk with that now is that you need to have headline shows in order to fit that one and a few others in, don't you?
Yeah, well, I guess we could play the whole thing in 40 minutes and get off.
So one other thing about the album is the artwork, and I've obviously seen it on the computer, and I'm waiting for the vinyl so I can sit there and do the typical metalhead thing and sit there and drool over it for a couple of hours while I'm listening to it. But it's pretty spectacular stuff. How did that come about?
Yeah, we had a few people in mind, and me and Tim sort of discussed it. We had a couple of candidates, but this was the guy we liked a lot, Santiago Caruso, called, this Argentinian guy. So we had, he's done a album cover for Stargazer, Merge into the Boundless. That was one we thought was great. It felt like the right kind of sort of mood, and it was a bit strange, and it felt like it might fit. And then we had an idea of what we wanted on him to make, and we kind of approached him and told him, we want something inspired by this. But he was more into just reading the lyrics and coming up with something based on his interpretation rather than being guided by us, which is fine. I think it's probably a good, to figure things out themselves. So the only thing that really stayed from our suggestion was the 3 paintings.
Triptych,
yeah, that was the important thing. But he's gone into the lyrics pretty deeply and sort of brought out some images that we might not have thought of having on the cover, but I think it's definitely better than what we probably had in mind.
Brilliant.
So happy with it.
Great. And what about because it's been out exactly a week now, so obviously it's still early days, but I had a quick scan through some of the online reviews which seem mainly positive about it and some very, very complimentary. Do you as a band spend a lot of time trawling the internet?
Yeah, I mean, it's all been good from what I've seen. We get the notifications sort of coming on, so I guess you kind of, and people send you the reviews sometimes as well, so I'll read them, but overall, I kind of, I find it's a bit weird to kind of just Google yourself all day. So read a few, and then we put them up online if it's good. But that's pretty much it. Like, it's I've not really read much negative about it, which is nice. But we just keep on doing it regardless, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I know that obviously for you guys, the main thing is that you make the music you want to make, and it doesn't really matter to a certain extent. Obviously, you want people to like it, but you have to be happy with it first. So, regardless of what someone in America thinks about it, it's about you, isn't it? Yeah.
That's the measure of it, I guess. But like, if no one's listening, it's kind of he needs to gives us the kind of motivation to do another one, I suppose.
Yeah, sure.
But I've been pretty happy with the response.
Yeah. How much extra work have you had to do on the kind of social media front during the last year? Because I know that some bands are very, shall I say, some of the younger bands seem to embrace it more than some of the older bands, maybe, and some of the older bands actually, certainly like the professional bands, obviously love it because it gives them something to do. Where are you guys with it?
Yeah, probably not. Somewhere in the middle, I guess. We're not. Yeah. We always in the early days of the band, we were kind of pretty much totally against it. But I guess there's a lot of positives to it. You can sort of interact with people a bit, and it's quite nice to get messages from people via those pages, and it kind of feels like it's a bit more personal in some ways, and then in other ways, you see a lot of bands sort of overdoing it, and that's kind of like, I guess you can be forgiven at the moment because there's not a lot for anyone to do in bands. But yeah, we're kind of, I think probably once all the reviews have died down a bit, we'll probably be a bit quieter on there again. But, for now it's fine. It's part of it, I guess.
Sure. I want to come back to the tour that you touched on with Dan, because you played with Wolves in the Throne Room on their tour, and you played in Cardiff, which was the time that I saw you guys.
Right. Yeah.
And I met, I don't know if it was you, Mike. It was certainly, I think, a couple of the guys wanted. It was the same night that England were playing Colombia in the World Cup.
Yeah. And I do remember that, actually. That's right.
I was talking to a couple of you outside the venue, and you said, can you find a pub where they're showing the game? And I took you down the road to the pub, which was on the corner just from the venue.
Yes, I remember now, yeah.
And kind of left you there in a Welsh pub, watching England play and thinking, I don't even know if I'm going to get the support band I want to watch tonight.
I think we might have caught the first half. That was about it. Yeah, it was. That was a weird thing about that tour, because it was absolutely roasting hot.
Yeah.
Every night. And we were playing at kind of, like 7 o'clock sort of time, which was the time when all the games were on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we like football, but it's not more important than playing the gig.
Well, yeah. The irony, of course, was that it was a game that England actually won a penalty shootout on, which was what made me think of it. Because, of course, I'm Welsh, so I can't really talk about football that much compared to you guys. But it just made me laugh that there was a penalty shootout the first time for God knows how long, and you'd actually missed it because you were playing while they were.
Well, there you go.
But one of the other things, I was looking back at the review I'd written for another site, and it talked about a kind of hush after every song that you'd played within the crowd. There was kind of a quiet, and it wasn't these are boring, these are not interesting. The whole gig had a kind of almost a religious experience. It was really emotive, especially with Wolves in the Throne Room as well, whose set is really inspiring. But I just wondered, I mean, was that unique to the Cardiff gig, or do you get kind of a silence, a reverential silence when you play a lot? Or is it just the Welsh just standing there going, don't know what's going on here?
Actually, no, that doesn't happen a lot. I think maybe that was kind of the mood. Yeah, Wolves definitely kind of bring that mood to a gig, whether they're playing or not, because I guess it's more of a meditative kind of thing,
Yeah.
Maybe that mood was in the air already, but no, I mean, it's probably just a normal response we get. I've noticed sort of, the last sort of bunch of gigs we played a lot more of the new material, and that kind of went down a bit more, and like in terms of people, getting into it and like moving about a bit, which has never been a thing when we were playing before. I guess there's a bit more like thrashy stuff in there. So
yeah.
Kind of one thing I've noticed in the more recent gigs, but yeah, generally it's like just a black metal crowd sort of.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know because the Wolves show, obviously their music kind of blends into one, so there's almost not a natural break to even give a round of applause a lot of the time.
Yeah, I guess that it was cool watching them every night, really. Yeah, they have this very like sort of, I don't know what you call it, it's like shamanistic almost kind of.
Yeah.
You know, they have the sage out and stuff. Like, yeah, I think it was a really good band.
Yeah,
very much enjoyed watching them.
And was it a good tour in total? The whole experience, yeah.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, I've always liked Wolves in a Throne Room. I think at what they do, they're brilliant.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of bands who've kind of attempted that sound, but they've not really captured the power of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and they were really cool people. And yeah, all the gigs, like obviously they were busy for them, but we got a really good response everywhere.
Yeah.
We went pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there was applause for you. It wasn't just silence the whole.
Oh yeah, I remember it quite well. Yeah, it was the venue. Yeah, I can't remember the name of the venue.
It's called the Globe. The Globe.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, we watched them from the balcony above after we played. Yeah, it was cool. It's kind of on that tour. I remember there's sort of when you play in London, it was like where was it? Like it was a big venue, and then certain other places it's a smaller room, and but every time the sound for them was great everywhere.
Yeah.
It's totally different experience sometimes, but always really cool.
Yeah, it's probably not the best venue for July. That venue, it's quite warm. This.
Yeah, I remember that. I think all the windows were boarded up or something like that.
Yeah, I remember standing there watching Wolves lighting all their fire pits and stuff, and looking around and seeing the management in the place going apoplectic, but they got away with it. So, just on future plans now, I know that you've got the album launch in inverted marks planned for Rebellion in September, is it? Or October? September?
It's in October. It's at the Star and Garter, actually.
Oh, it's the Star and Garter, yeah.
Yeah, which I much prefer.
Yeah.
It's one of our favourite places. Yeah, that's planned, I guess. Yep. We'll see what happens.
Uh-huh. And what else have you got planned? Have you been able to do anything, or are you like everyone else just kind of waiting to see? Well,
I think the big issue is not just COVID, but also the Brexit kind of whether or not we'll be able to go back to Europe, which is kind of, what we want to do a lot with the record. So I don't know about that at all, but we've got some stuff lined up for early next year.
Yeah.
A tour. It's not been announced yet, but yeah, I think it might be the future for a while for bands in the UK to tour, like do a more sort of week, 8-day tours in the UK and go to a lot of places where we've not been as well before.
Yeah.
Which would be cool. Yeah, it's not been announced yet, but it's with another band. Hopefully they can do it.
Great. Have you still got the mad fans saying come to Venezuela and come to Costa Rica because we love you, and there's one person doing that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We would do if we could, but no offers as of yet.
And just a couple of final questions. Obviously, for someone like myself who reviews music, but obviously is a music fan, the fact that everyone is producing music is brilliant in some respects, but in other respects, it's a little bit kind of hold back the flood. I can't cope with so much music.
Right.
Is there anything that in the last year or so has come out that has really stood out for you? There's probably a few albums. Anything that comes to mind that you said albums of the year or stuff that you weren't expecting?
Yeah. I've not really checked much out this year, but last year I really liked that Sweven album, the guy who was in Morbus Chron. I think that was kind of a really cool continuation of that. What else? A band called Black Curse, American band, like great Black Death. Yeah, those were the two. And did the Witch Hazel record come out last year? I think they're a brilliant band. Probably my favourite UK band. Totally different, obviously, but like, yeah, those are the three I listened to a lot last year.
Great, brilliant, good. It's been a pleasure to speak to you, and I really thank you for your time. Fingers crossed that tour that you're going to announce will come south of Manchester, and I'll be able to come along and say hi.
Yeah, I think, I'll need to have a look at the dates, but there's quite a few. Yeah, you might have a chance. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. Fingers crossed that the album continues to go from strength to strength, and that you get that gig in Manchester in October.
Yeah, hopefully.
That's what we want. All right, mate. Thanks for your time. Cheers. Take care.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you keep up to date with future episodes by subscribing to our channels. For more information on this podcast, or for all the latest music news, reviews, interviews and more, head over to our website, www.therazorsedge.rocks.